All right, we're going.
Okay. Here, you want to turn it just a little bit that way so Braelyn is in it. Just
Wait, but then she won't be.
yeah. So
Well, so we can test it.
test it.
Yay!
Okay, so this is group 3.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our first discussion. And this is for discussion post number 3. Yep. Okay.
Yay.
So, who wants to start?
What's their names?
Oh, right.
I'm Braelyn.
Lexi.
Jordyn.
Rachel.
And Katelyn.
Awesome.
Okay. So should we start by just everyone sharing, and then we can just kind of talk amongst ourselves, like talk about it to each other?
Yeah, we want to start
Yeah.
with like the
Letter
first
A.
question.
That's me.
Yeah. Letter A.
All right, so can you scoot it up?
Yeah.
I know most of it, but it's like,
Wait.
oh, I think I'm actually like
There
lost.
you go. You're right there.
Oh yeah. So I had Eugenia, and she's of Hispanic descent, and she lives in California, and she's in a bilingual kindergarten. Ugh, that's hard to say. And she's just really excelling in there. Her parents don't speak English, so that's her biggest struggle and challenge because she doesn't have that support at home, and her parents really want her to speak English so that she can be successful. And her teacher's really supportive, and so it's going really well for her. And her teacher speaks Spanish and English, and so she can talk to her parents. So her parents feel that she's being supported at school and at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so then she's a perfect match for a potential long-term English learner because she was born in America, and even though Spanish is her first language, she's learning English now. And so she's learning how to speak that at school through her kindergarten class. So that's why she's good. And then I had Farah, and she's a 9-year-old from Iraq, but she now moved to Dallas, Texas. And there's not a big Iraqi presence in Dallas, obviously. And she's in an ELL class, but she feels like she's learning more Spanish than English because there's only a couple of other girls that are from Iraq there. And so she is 9, so she understands what's happening in her family. And it's just really stressful because they moved there and they're not earning enough money and they're talking about moving, so it's just a lot of family stress. And so that's affecting her, and then she's worried about state testing and everything. So that's what she's concerned about, and she's just worried about fitting in. So she's a perfect match for the newly arrived with adequate schooling learner because she had a lot of English classes when she was in Iraq, but now that she's here, she's still behind, and even though she's at grade level, she can't understand as quickly as native speakers can. And so she's just working on that. And then it talked about how socially in that stage for a learner, it's really difficult, and that the article, that's what they're talking about, that she's not fitting in and everything. I don't want to get dark, so I'll probably just keep doing that.
Okay. I think it's really interesting that she's worried about state testing.
Yeah, she's really concerned about making sure that she does as well as everyone else. And so it's awesome because she wants to succeed, but it's causing so much stress on her that I was getting stressed reading it for her.
Yeah.
It's financially, she was just freaking out about everything, and I felt bad.
Yeah.
It's also interesting that she's not necessarily learning English, because that's probably because English is her second language, probably, and that she's kind of getting more Spanish exposure, I'm assuming, than English, which is, that's cool that she's going to learn Spanish also, but probably not necessarily
Helpful.
helpful
exactly.
in her English language learning.
Because she's 9 and she had a lot of English classes when she was in Iraq, and she had a private tutor. So she came and she tested at 4th grade, but she's not fitting in as much as she would like to, and she's 9, so she understands that she's not doing as well as everyone else, and so that's taking a toll on her too.
Is her native language practice at home?
Her parents speak English really well, so they speak English, but she has a younger brother, and he's in kindergarten. He's just picking it up really quickly, and so since she's older, she can't. It's taking her more time. So
there was something that said that when you aren't necessarily fluent in your native language, it's harder to learn English. It's better if you have a foundation in something, so that might be kind of hard for her too.
I think they have that in your post, right?
Yeah, maybe so.
It's in there.
Okay. So who's B?
I'm B.
Okay.
So I hope I pronounced this right. Osmond Moni, or last name, first name. Osmond. The student's cultural and ethnic heritage is that she is a Cambodian girl, and she speaks Khmer, the Cambodian language.
Oh, okay.
She moved to America with her family as a refugee, so it's not like they like had this opportunity. It was more not like they necessarily wanted to come. It was more of like to come for safety issues. She had no previous experience with English when she arrived in America. And when she first got to America, she got put into an ELL classroom in like this larger school. And it was just this experience where there were so many kids that needed help in this large school that the teacher couldn't give her like this one-on-one focus. And she noticed that I call her Moni in my paper. I think that's probably her last name. I think I got that confused. So I'm just gonna say Moni. But Moni, she was only really talking to the other girl that was from Cambodia in the room, and she didn't really like to interact with anyone else. And the teacher found that kind of an issue, and she wasn't like picking up on English as fast as they thought she would. But the teacher really noticed that she had like a strength in art, and so she kind of latched onto that and was like tried to like push her for that, like to express herself through that. And this was a school that had like summer breaks, and when this school ended, her parents put her in a year-round school. So she ended up going to a smaller school somewhere else, and the teacher had the chance to go to that school and like check up on Moni and like make sure everything was going well. And when she got there and like interviewed her and talked to her, she realized that Moni was like sparkling in her English language learning, and that she was just doing a lot better because she had more individual attention, and she wasn't, I think it just helped her not to need to talk to the only other Cambodian child in the room. So there's that.
Like helped her push her out of her comfort zone.
Yeah. She was in a kindergarten class. I wrote here that in her kindergarten class, her teacher failed to recognize Moni's advancement and proficiency in English. So she was like doing well. I think there's just so many other things that were going on that the teacher wasn't able to like notice like strongly and recognize it right away. But in a smaller environment, that teacher was able to help more.
Oh, that's good.
It's interesting too because with English language learning, I feel like it's almost necessary for it to be like a smaller setting.
Yeah.
Because with I don't know, it's definitely.
But it's hard because there's like high populations in different areas.
Right.
And the other thing, connecting it to the newly arrived inadequate schooling. So she was ready for kindergarten in her like native language in her native land, whatever. She was ready for kindergarten and she like was up there, but the newly arrived inadequate schooling says that they're adequate in their language, but when they come to America, it's like this almost disconnect where they're ready, but they're behind all the other children because they don't know the language. So it's like once they finally understand the language that they're using, they have to then catch up to the other children. So that was her struggle.
You see?
Yeah,
Okay.
sorry.
No, you're fine.
Okay.
Do you want me to hold your computer for you or like help?
Oh no, it's
Okay.
okay. I think I can. So the first one I had was Salvador, and he was from a Spanish-speaking household, and he was put into bilingual classrooms for kindergarten and first grade. But due to his like willingness to learn, he was switched to an English-only second grade class, which didn't help obviously because that's not what he was wanting to learn. And they tried to help, and then he had issues with both writing and reading in both Spanish and English. And his father was being unstable and he was only relying on his mother, whose furthest education was high school. She did take English classes, and she tried to like help him out, but he didn't want it, you know? And
How old is he again?
it didn't say.
Okay.
It just talked about him being in 3rd and 4th grade,
Okay.
so I'm assuming that was
Okay.
yeah. So it took like the 3rd and 4th grade teachers that actually like believed in him to make like a change. Like the teacher, she wanted him to succeed and put him in the right direction. I'm trying to remember exactly what they did. I know that the 3rd grade teacher gave him leadership tasks and tried to make him speak up and only put him in small groups. He never could sit by himself to make him really talk up and get confident about it. And ever since then, he was more confident about his work and had more willingness to learn. And his 4th grade teacher encouraged that as well. And together they saw him grow more and more confident in what he was doing. Yeah.
I like the idea of the small groups versus letting you work on your own, because
Yeah.
you definitely learn a language better when it's conversational.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And Tao, this was a really sad story.
Tao was a really sad story, so I had to talk about him too.
Did you? Yeah. He was a 14-year-old boy, the youngest of 7 children, and a Hmong family. He moved to California when he was only a few months old, and his parents had divorced. So he only lives with his father and 2 brothers, who both are married and have children. Their family came to the United States in hope of a better life, but due to economic and emotional issues, that didn't happen, like most families that come here. And Tao's father didn't speak English, so that was a barrier to try and get a job, in the States. And due to all the home issues, he didn't want to go to school much. I think he went twice a week, if that. And
He lives in the inner city, right?
mm-hmm,
Yeah.
yeah. And then he would always get in trouble outside of school as well. And I think it was when he got to high school, he was in a gang. And once they figured that out, I think the teacher and the father tried to get together, and she got a translator to try and help. And he was trying to help his son because he wanted him to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And so they tried with that, but once he started getting to a gang, they put him into a continuation school. And that's basically all they said. That's what they left it at.
Really sad.
Yeah. There was just no happy ending to this one. It was just they didn't know what to do.
It's kind of the picture of if you don't work with those kids and you don't help them, this is kind of what happens.
Yeah. And the teachers tried, but if other teachers would have tried before him,
Yeah.
it would have made such a difference.
And it makes a difference when you reach them at a younger age.
Yeah,
as soon as
exactly.
possible.
Yeah.
Exactly. But he was 14. So
Wait, so
I
he
mean,
started going to school in America when he was 14?
No, he moved to the
Oh.
States
Yeah.
when he was really
Yeah,
little.
baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And that
he's-
gap just gets bigger and
Mhm,
bigger and
exactly.
bigger.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good, rule.
Right.
Just
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's how it goes.
But I mean, living with his dad who doesn't speak English, that's hard for when he's trying to learn,
Mhm.
and he has no support
Really,
really.
again, he's
Yeah,
already
he-
behind, and without
Exactly.
the support, he's becoming more and more behind.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely need that support when they're younger to be able to succeed, and he obviously was
No.
did not have that, which is really sad.
Yeah, I don't know. I wish there was more to it.
It's like a sad story about long-term potential English language learner.
Yeah.
Like that's what happens
Yeah.
when you don't get that support.
Mhm.
You just fall into other things, or what happens?
Well, he doesn't get any better. Like just keeps going down.
Yeah.
You're not able to improve your life in an English speaker.
And as well as his English language learning,
Yeah.
so just shouldn't- Okay. So I had, Sharma. So she's a Punjabi, I think, Indian girl, and
Yeah, it's
Punjabi.
a job.
Yeah, Punjabi. Indian girl in the 5th grade in a rural farming community. She participates a lot in the Punjabi tradition and the Sikh religion on the weekends. However, her parents kind of encourage her and allow her to draw away from their cultural traditions in order to become more accustomed to American culture, which is interesting. She was born in California. She moved back and forth between the U.S. and India for financial reasons, and her parents thought that the U.S. was the best place for her to excel in her future. And she seeks friendships and those who are English native speakers, and she avoids other Punjabi kids, which I thought was pretty interesting. She does. It said that she would interact with them if they needed help or something. So she was. It went on to say that it was kind of her way of trying to not be associated with the minority a little bit, and and she kind of liked it that she was their help seeker and not necessarily their friend, because I think she kind of felt a little bit like
above a little
them.
bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that was probably the case. And her testing scores shows that she's proficient in English, and her teacher notes that she has trouble with English reading and writing because of lack of the foundation of the concepts in her native language of Punjabi, because when she came to the United States, her parents were just focused on her learning English, as well as the fact that they don't have her really keep up with the Punjabi traditions, except for religious services a little bit on the weekends, is also a reason for that trouble with English. She doesn't have a foundation in her native language. And her teacher suggested that she get continued support in Punjabi, and they have a Punjabi speaking aide at their school, which is cool.
Wow.
I know, I don't know.
Where is that?
California, I'm not sure. But it
Most
was
of a high
rural
population
farming
in Punjab.
community.
Yeah.
So that was interesting, and also it kind of shows that it is important to have your native language secure
Yeah.
if the teacher is wanting her to get continued support in Punjabi. So I said I had long-term English learner, and she kind of fit a few of the criteria. It says that they need to be in the U.S. or they usually are in the U.S. for 7 years or more, typically in grades 6 through 12, which is not quite there. But they have limited literacy in both their native language as well as English language, which I think fit her pretty well. They have inconsistency in schooling, as well as English as a second language instruction, but not consistently. They may struggle with content classes and may be at risk for dropping out. And they may get adequate grades but score low on tests. And so she does score higher on tests, but I think the one thing that she definitely resonates with is that she has limited literacy in both her native language and English language. Yeah. So, yeah.
I was kind of interested in like what traditions did they let her, if the book even said what traditions did they let her stray away from, or which ones did they do?
I think, well, from what they didn't necessarily say, but from what I'm inferring, she did, the one that she kind of stayed with was the religion, which was probably like most important for their family, and I'm assuming the ones that she strayed away from were kind of like the more cultural things, like maybe
dress and
right,
food.
yeah, big dress and food, and definitely the language,
Yeah.
and even like not hanging out with the Punjabi kids.
Yeah.
I'm sure that was something her parents said. You don't have to hang out with them, which I think is why she magnetized towards like the white English speaking kids.
And she's succeeding too.
Yeah, oh, for
So,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah. And it's cool because the more help she gets in Punjabi, the more she'll succeed in English as well.
Exactly.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
She's really interesting.
Yeah,
She was,
she's
yeah.
cool. Especially because her parents are supported,
Yeah.
are supporting her. And
Yeah.
like, in mine, I wasn't getting that like as much. Like mom and dad definitely are doing their
Right.
big part there.
It's definitely, the school needs to be doing something, but the parents have a huge role.
Oh,
in it.
Oh, definitely.
Alright, number E.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have 3 siblings. I don't know if any of you read them, but
Yeah.
Jose, Louis, Guillermo, I don't really know.
Guillermo.
However, I say that. I'm gonna call him G. And Patricia.
Patricia.
Oh, sorry. I'm gonna call her Sam. And they came here kind of like I think the Zeros were saying that she didn't want to come, or was it Monia? She didn't want to come.
Mine were
Refugees. Yeah. Okay. So they came because of tragedy, and their dad was shot. They saw him get shot, and in El Salvador, and so it wasn't like they were planning to come here, and they only came here because their aunt was here. And so they came here, and then they were pretty much on their own, which is like they had so many things stacked up against them, which is why I find their success so like empowering, because they've done really well for themselves. They didn't really say much about the instruction, if they had like ELL, lots of ELL support, but they talked about their habits. Like the oldest, Jose, he studied like a ton, and because he is like twice as hard for him, because you're learning all these subjects, but then you also have to learn English, and so it just makes school like twice as hard. But he had a little bit of English instruction at a private school, so he was actually at grade level. So that in all of his other subjects besides English. So they all had advantage there, and but he was kind of antisocial, is what I got from reading it.
Yeah.
And so he didn't learn English, or it was like a really big struggle for him because he was antisocial, I think.
He wasn't having that conversation.
He wasn't having, he was just studying so much.
Yeah.
He needed the conversation. And then, wait, how long has it been? 20 minutes?
So we should after this.
I'll be really quick.
Yeah.
And then G. He was way more social. He got into a bunch of clubs, and so I think he was 15. He was able to succeed. He didn't do so great academically because he didn't study so much, but he did better with English than his older brother did.
Mm-hmm.
And then the youngest,
Tricia.
she did the best English-wise because she was the youngest, I think. I think age had to do with it.
Yeah.
And also she was in the school longer because she was 13, so she had to go through all the grades.
One more time.
And they did really well. They are now professionals, and they all have they all are graduates or what's hard in that doctorate. One of them has or I don't know. One of them has
they went to college.
they went to college for multiple things, and one of them got a really high degree, which I currently spacing on. And the interesting thing that I just thought was cool, I put in my questions, was that their degrees were all kind of sciencey, mathematic-wise, and I think that was because of the language barrier. Because one of them, I think that's what made sense to me. Was, one was in architecture and engineering, the other one, master's degree, the other one was engineering, and then the third one in chemistry. So I feel maybe because there's it's a language, it's universal, it's not. That's maybe why they excelled in those areas so much, and why they went that direction.
I feel
So
it's more universal. It's a perfect way to describe that.
yeah, but I just thought yeah, go for it, go them.
So for the rest of the exam for the future, I'm not sure if this is what she wants to do, but since we're kind of mirroring discussing on the post, I don't think we have to address everything because I don't think us responding to each other we would be addressing everything. Does that make sense? I don't know.
That makes sense.
Is that are you
definitely.
guys getting that feel?
So
Okay.
I think we kind of already talked about question number 2.
Basically,
We're talking about
yeah,
question number
for sure.
1. So let's move on to 3.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, we're not going to talk about potential.
Well, we kind of already did
Yeah,
that.
touched on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alright, so my question 3 was very long, and my post is long. So if you got through it and read it, kudos to you, because it literally took me a long time
find the page.
to write it. But it's talking about on page 30. It talks about Oglu's classification of immigrant and involuntary minority students, and I think it's an interesting chart because all of our stories are different. And I thought that was really interesting as I was reading through the chapter, and it talks about what an immigrant minority is versus an involuntary minority. And so basically this guy, Oglu, he classified which types of immigrants are more successful, and he found out that the immigrant minorities are more successful because they're trying to alternate between what is going on at home and what's going on at school. And so since they're putting so much effort into just excelling in English and doing well in school, that they're doing better. And so they measure success by homeland standards. So if something is bad at home, there's nowhere near that it's bad as it is in America, because they're just doing so much better. And they definitely notice that there's differences, and they try to adapt, it's culture, how her parents, what's her person's name? Yeah, Sharma, how she was changing, going after and excelling instead of being held back almost. That's what it talks about is why they're excelling. It's immigrant minorities Sharma are excelling, or Osman or Rasham. Who had him? Osman. Did you have Osman?
Oh yes, Officer Moni.
Oh yes, thank
Yes,
you. 'Cause
sorry.
I was like, Moni. I'm like,
Yeah, that's why I was confused because it goes last name, first name, and I don't think I realized that when I read it. So I
Yeah.
addressed him as Moni.
Well,
But Smith.
Our Moni, he excelled too, and it was talking about
Yes.
how since he's classified as an immigrant minority, how he's excelling. And then about Tao, he's classified as an involuntary minority because he chose not to change his behavior, and he it talks about how they're more apt to like join gangs because they're trying to find somewhere where they belong, and that's where he found belonging. And so examples of like involuntary minorities, that's why they're not excelling because they don't want to change the way they are. They just want to stay who they are, and they don't want to adapt, which is sad. So
That
that's
makes
why
sense.
that's what happened to Tao. Is that's why he ended up joining that gang and not finishing high school and kind of just let the story ended like that. So mine just talks about that, which I thought was interesting because then it put everything about the stories in perspective. So you can learn why some kids excelled and why some didn't. So that's why yours excelled because they just put everything into school, and they ended up getting masters and PhDs and stuff. So that's what mine kind of covered.
Study.
It is.
Okay. I'm B. I think you and I had the same part, B and D. So if we want to talk about that, it was the 3 theories presented in the section about historically why some students fail in the classroom. And the 3 theories were the genetic inferiority, cultural inferiority, and cultural deficiency.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So
Deficit?
sorry, deficit. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Deficit. So first, we're just like quickly going over them. People historically have thought of genetic inferiority, of like if you're not part of the minority, if you're like a majority. It was mostly majorities that there's something about you and your genes that made you fail. Like
Right.
you
The
couldn't.
minority genes.
Yeah, the minority genes that you couldn't succeed at all because look,
And you can't change
you
that.
can't change
Right,
either.
that's
You
what
can't
they
succeed. You can't change. It's in your genes. There's nothing you can really do about it. Kind of sucks to be you.
That is sad.
It's really sad.
And then cultural deficient is also, they're both single cause explanations for failure, which is not the case.
Well, isn't it genetic and then cultural inferiority?
Oh, okay. Well,
But
I think
they're all
it doesn't
really
matter.
similar.
Yeah, I'll just talk about the deficient. Like, you can
Okay.
talk about that one. So that failure occurs because of one's culture, and that mainstream culture has no deficiencies. And then it also says that schools try and fix this by trying to change things regarded as like deficient cultural practices, which is interesting because that doesn't help. Also, it's like the culture isn't a problem, so
Yeah, of course.
that's interesting.
Is it
Go on to the last one.
Yeah. And then the third one, cultural inferiority, is the idea that certain cultures are not as capable as others, and that the mainstream culture has no deficiencies, and that thus the students that belong to these inferior cultures are educationally challenged. And the thing about cultural inferiority and cultural deficit was that they're pretty much the same thing. It was just cultural inferiority came first, and then cultural deficient came second, and it was just a nicer spin on it, I guess.
Oh.
I also
It doesn't
have
sound as
a
bad.
cultural
Yeah.
mismatch,
Oh, right.
which is that students do better if they adopted the school norms at the expense of their native culture. And I said that I think this is damaging to understanding students because they all force students to focus on ways to escape their cultural identity
That's
in order
terrible.
to become more like those students, which is where you have like identity crisis and things like that. And I said also it's important to understand that students may not do as well as others for several reasons, not because of their minority or not because of their culture or not because of their culture mixed with the mainstream culture.
I think the point was that children don't fail because of these things. These are just the things that history has said.
They're kind of
children
excuses.
fail. Yeah,
Yeah,
excuses.
definitely. That's a great way
But
to
there's
describe
definitely other things going on in their lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's sad that people believe that for a while. Like, that's just what I think about, is like, someone was just like, oh, they're not excelling because of this. And it's like, really? I think there's a lot more to it than just that.
But I think, I don't know what class you guys are taking right now, but we're talking about hegemony in 301. And I think it really goes back to that idea that if you're on the top of the food chain and they're on the bottom of the food chain, you can just kind of make up whatever you want why they don't succeed.
Exactly.
And if you want to say it's genetics, you're going to say it's genetics.
You're
You should
gonna
just
go
like
with
push
it.
them down.
Yep.
Are you 310?
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like the top white man, upper class, who's writing out these norms and see?
Okay, yeah, we're really running out of time, so I'm just gonna really speed through mine. Plus, that was pretty short, anyways.
You were lucky.
Yeah. Well, I probably should have written more.
No, I bet you are fine.
It was mainly. I can even show you guys if you guys can see the picture. But it's the contextual interaction model, and it's about.
Oh, I did that too.
Okay.
You did.
Perfect.
Well, she kept messing up which ones we were supposed to do.
I guess
so
I don't know. I was going between the PowerPoint and the paper thingy.
It's okay. We can both talk about it.
That's perfect.
So that's why I wanted to pull up the graphic. Yeah.
Oh.
I remember this from a class that I took in the first quarter. It was either like 301 or it was 310. You guys like?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, you're not there yet. But yeah. Let's just go.
Okay. Well, it's just about the different factors that influence emergent bilingual schools, like national and state context, community and family context, and school context, with the different things in between, like the school, facility, climate, resources, peers, attitudes, staffing, involvement, proficiency, attitude, skills, and programs, and just like the different things that affect them.
The different levels of control too, probably.
Yeah. Like national and state context, and each and every one of them is going to affect students no matter what and how they school. Is there stuff you want to add to that?
Oh, okay. So I just realized that ours are just really similar, and mine is kind of different.
Okay.
I had to look at 2 of the case studies and then apply it to this.
Oh, okay.
And
So I can just add on to
that's,
that.
I know it really does just add on. So what I did was I just looked at based on the case study. I did Salvador, and then I did my 3 people, my siblings,
okay.
and then I just like how media looks at them, how the state, like the legals, like they look at them as bad test scores that are going to affect their state standards, and then about how family context, and that I felt like that was more of like what conditions affect these students, and so talking about how like family no support with Salvador.
Yeah.
There was no support there, and so that was just really hard. And then the school, like the facilities, like having that good one teacher, but then if he had better teaching in the first couple of grades, he would have succeeded. And then, not much.
I'm just making a really quick. Sorry.
No,
I
didn't.
You back with.
Oh no, I was just like looking at you.
I'm making a really quick comment. You talked a little bit about how, like, the government or whoever looks at these children as bad test scores.
Right.
I think that goes back to your child's anxiety.
Yeah.
So much anxiety about her
No,
test
they were
scores.
talking she was like, she's nervous at state testing because she missed it last year because she was a new student, and this year they're like forcing it on her, and so she's already stressed about it.
No, also
Sorry.
goes back
Well,
to
Isn't there a law that says that once a kid comes in, they have to take the test right away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which just sets them up for failure right at the beginning because
I
they
know.
think they can't do it.
Yeah.
And then like
No,
learn
she should sit there.
helplessness
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah,
She
exactly.
should sit there struggling.
Oh my
and
goodness.
that also
We can go on
sorry.
and on. There's
That
so
also
much.
goes back to the cultural deficit, and cultural mismatch and stuff, because those are like the single reasons for failure. And I think that the people on the board who are saying, "Oh, you're going to lower our test scores," are saying that because they're minority. And that's very much.
Do we want to just discuss like the individual ones we did for the jigsaw? Since
Yeah,
we all
let's do
did
that.
the all part together.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have to discuss that.
So
So just our kind of definition
Our
of what we're
thinking.
doing.
yeah.
Or just a jigsaw part.
I was very confused about jigsaw part. I'm just gonna say that. I was very confused.
Oh,
Me
me
too.
too.
I was confused. I think we all were.
Don't worry. It's,
Yeah.
I feel like it's really mutual.
Okay.
I was super confused.
So
I didn't know what to do.
I'm prepared to talk about question 4 and the parts like I had psychocultural rights.
Oh,
And so like we each had our own like definitions
Yeah.
to do, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what I was
Okay.
saying. That's what we should
Okay,
do.
yeah, let's do that.
Okay.
So I have the first one, and mine it was just introducing how access to quality education is a human right, and how people are trying to move forward in that and trying to like incorporate diversity. But it was talking about how there's like more concerns to education than ever before too, and there's more threats, which is making it hard to like move past that. and just trying to like make it better, I guess. And so I was talking about how education is like a two-tiered system, and that's increasing the achievement gap. And so, that's increasing the achievement gap, and it's making it hard to earn respect for cultural rights. And since there's so many policies that are like anti-discrimination, it's hard to like have culture be a part of the classroom because so many people are worried that they're going to test the boundaries too much. And so it was talking about that. Mine was like hard to just give like a definition. It's like
Yours
the
was similar to
introduction.
mine.
Yeah,
Seems like you'll connect those. Okay.
I guess that's good. They
Yeah,
should connect, right?
Yeah, that's why
Mine sounds like yours too.
They should connect.
Okay.
And
Mine
yeah,
was
Keep going.
psychocultural rights, and the psychocultural cultural rights, and I'm gonna butcher this word. Epistemological justice. So psychocultural rights is the author's that pretty much every student has the right to see themselves and their culture in the classroom. So you have a right, if you're from Venezuela, to learn in the way that you would in Venezuela.
Yes.
That's most comfortable to you. That's kind of what the gist of that was. And epistemological justice is very similar to that. It was just that, let me find what I said. That the material in the classroom is offered in multiple ways that cater to a student's cultural worldviews and ties, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So the first one is like they have the right to see themselves in the classroom, and this is like that the information is accessible across the board to like all the different cultures in a classroom. So everyone's learning in different ways with different cultures, and some of those ways are most comfortable for them, and it creates a multicultural environment in your classroom.
So I had sociocultural rights, and basically going off of that one, I like how it said that a monocultural education deprives everybody, regardless of your culture or lack of culture, or however you see it, and that it's important to develop a more universal vision of reality, which is also not only like being like aware of multiple cultures, but also like learning from multiple cultures, because different cultures means different perspectives on different things. So I thought that was really cool, and it also says that the teacher needs to be part of it as well. And in doing so, that experience becomes shared, and it's an interactive experience for the teachers and the students. And I think that's important. I think the teacher should be kind of the role model and the example, like kind of put themselves out there in order to encourage students to do so as well. And yeah, it says that multicultural education aims for anti-racism and anti-prejudice. Yeah.
Wait,
Last one.
Oh,
wait, no.
Oh, no.
Wait, hold on, because I think I might have accidentally looked at D because she kept switching them.
I thought.
And okay, hold
hopefully it'll be
on.
better for post war.
Yeah.
Let me see.
So
which-
did everyone, the rest of you, do the?
No, I did
Okay.
the last.
Mine was about cultural democratic rights. Did you do that one?
She did social.
Okay, so I'm good. Never mind. Okay.
Okay.
So, mine was about cultural democratic rights and human rights education, and it's about teaching students about what their human rights are and how to defend themselves from like abuse.
Oh, I have that one too. Okay. Because she took it off of the thing on the
Yeah.
post, and there was no E there, so I went to
Oh, right.
PowerPoint, and then
You
I
didn't
guess ours
see-
overlapped.
Well,
So you guys can
No,
just
this
like share
E.
together.
Human
Yeah,
rights
perfect.
education, yeah.
Okay.
So it was all about teaching kids their
Yeah.
rights.
yeah, and that they
Sorry,
can
what's
stand up
this
for their
about?
rights
Yeah,
and
yeah.
just to show them what they are. So,
I kind of took a step back from multicultural education.
yeah.
And then did you do knowledge of themselves as active
Yeah.
agents and history makers? Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's just inspiring the students.
Yeah.
Yeah, being
That's right.
inspirational.
Empowering them,
Yeah.
you
Having
know,
high
giving them the
expectations.
tools.
Mm-hmm.
To learn in their own culture as well as
Yeah.
like figuring out the English culture.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I think just the biggest challenge is that teachers aren't putting high enough expectations.
Mhm.
They're expecting them not to succeed, which is so sad because they can't succeed with high expectations and support, and they're just not getting that, and that's why they're not doing well in both languages that they're immersed in.
Sweet.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, this is our post. And go ahead and let us know if there's anything you want us to change or do differently next time.
If you want it.
Thank you.
Watch it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.